Hello, friends, and welcome to In the Loop with myself and the amazing Greg Nibler. It's so wonderful to be here with you. My name is Winnie Sun. For those of you who don't know me, you have seen me. I'm on the CNBC Financial Advisor Council, longtime financial pro, Forbes contributor, and without further ado, my amazing co-host Greg. Greg, how are you today?
I am doing great. We are both here and there. We're everywhere right now online. So I think it all applies. And thank you everybody for joining us. And again, my name is Greg Nibler. I've been a tech reporter and journalist. I worked for the NBA, I've worked in entertainment, all kinds of different things. And now here with this show where Winnie and I have teamed up for In the Loop. And thank you to everybody who's watching too, wherever you are, drop in your comments. We're live. This is a lot of fun. So we want to have fun with you and just, talk about our two worlds, bring them together, have a good time, just kind of all those things all at once.
It is so true. I'm so grateful to be here with you, Greg. It is such a treat, such a delight, a day I look forward to every single week to be able to see you. I know we were really busy last week, so it's so good to reunite. Let's start with the market. Let you know how it closed because we have some good news. The Dow closed up 322 points. The NASDAQ also up 97 points. You know we love that because we love tech. And S&P is up 24 today as well. Now, you may have heard, Greg, that President Joe Biden and a bipartisan group of 21 senators, they actually came to a compromise today. And in fact, we're going to have some good news in terms of transportation, our roads and things like that. I feel like, things are going to get a little smoother on the road. I know, Greg, you're going to be talking to us more about flying vehicles.
Yeah.
But, $1.2 trillion plan, pretty good. You're going to spend a lot of money on roads. I don't know, how are roads in your neighborhood?
They're pretty terrible, actually, right where I live. I'm in one section of town where they've decided not to repave a bunch. I'm actually in Portland, Oregon, but seriously, the next street over is a complete gravel road with potholes in the middle of the city. So it kind of depends on where you're at. I feel like everything's always under construction, but nothing's ever finished. That's probably not just a Portland thing. But better roads would be nice. That would be a good thing. That's an improvement.
That'd be such a good thing. Here in Southern California, we're sort of famous for our really awesome freeways.
Yeah.
It's a joke, of course. But, it's interesting because, I am a Los Angeles native, which I know is kind of rare these days. But we even know which freeways to take, not only because of traffic, because of potholes. If you go on certain freeways, there's a good chance that you might blow a tire. And so hopefully this is actually going to get fixed. So I'm excited about this. But here's something that I really want to talk to you about, Greg, because I feel like we can do a little dreaming. And I'm guessing you saw this article. There's many articles, in fact, about Peter Thiel. Now, you may know Peter Thiel. He is the co-founder of PayPal. Do you hear about this, Greg? This is kind of bananas.
I saw something about this, about a whole lot of money made is the key thing that I saw in this, and also wishing that I had done this.
Okay, a whole lot of money is so true. So unfortunately, Greg, I love you, and everybody who watches you loves you, but maybe Peter and his pals didn't love you because Peter, what he did is in his Roth IRA, he basically turned, I think it was around $1,700 that was in his Roth IRA. He bought PayPal shares, okay? He was able to buy PayPal shares at 1/10 of 1 cent. In 1999.
That's nuts.
I know, that's nuts. And now it's reported to be valued at about 5 billion big ones. That's a lot of bees.
Yes, that is a lot of bees. I would one of those bees would be amazing.
Would be amazing,
but even better.
But here's what's even more mind-blowing about this, Greg, is that he is not going to have to pay taxes on that money if he holds that money for just another 6.5 years, because currently he's 53. And if you keep your Roth IRA fully invested until 59.5, the government allows you to take a withdrawal from this retirement account 100% tax-free. So that gain of $1,700, $1,800, $1,900 to 5 billion big ones is non-taxable.
See, that's just crazy. I mean, for a number of different reasons. One, I mean, I'm always jealous, and clearly he knew what he was doing, investing in himself. But these people who invested in things a long time ago, you always hear the stories of somebody who invested, $100 in Apple in 1982 or something, and make so much money off of it. I tried to play that game. I am not obviously for anybody watching, I am not the financial advisor on this show or very well skilled at it, but I do enjoy like messing around with it. Like Robinhood, I got into the whole thing, bought some that then blew up and made a little bit of money. But that's like the dream is to like find that one startup, get way in the beginning. And that's not even that much money, just that amount, but to turn that into $5 billion, like that would keep me up at night thinking about that. If I had thought about investing in PayPal back then and then didn't, and seeing this, where it's at right now, that would probably keep me up at night.
Yeah, and the financial pro in me is just like, goodness gracious, tax-free growth.
Tax-free.
If those of you who know me, I know Greg knows this very well, is that I am like, they should just call me the Roth IRA queen, because all I do is spew my love and infatuation for the Roth IRA. My husband's not jealous of this, so it's okay. But like literally, if all our monies could be in a Roth IRA, I would be happy. But given how much Peter has made, the concern that I have here is that once, this article now it's trending all over Twitter, by the way, and people read this, soon the government is going to come and do a cap on this, which is really, I would think is really sad, because there's approximately 21 million taxpayers that currently have Roth IRAs. And this is as of 2018. This is reported by the IRS. And roughly, most people have only about 39,000 in their Roth IRA, right? So they have an incentive to grow there for future retirement needs. And then you have somebody like this, like Peter. Okay, this is my message to Peter. Now, number one, if I was your financial advisor, maybe I would tell you something differently. But if I was your publicist, I would recommend that you take a good portion of that money and you donate it out, right? I mean, you just gotta, at some point, you're gonna say that's a lot of billions, and this is how much I probably should have paid in taxes, and maybe I'll just give that out and donate it to people who really need it.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I mean, definitely PR wise, but also that just seems like kind of the right thing to do. If you have $5 billion, it's going to be there tax free, and I'm sure he's doing all right outside of that $5 billion. I'm sure he's doing fine. It's like a bonus. 5 billion. Yeah, that would be a really cool thing to think about too. Just like who you would give the money to, how you can share that out, how you can help some people like that. That would be a lot of fun.
That would be so much fun. Like all the people that have been good to you during your life when you were building PayPal, all your employees, right? Maybe like the postman and the gardener, like everybody who's somebody who, just didn't have the fortune that you did. I think that'd be really cool. That would be my my 2 cents. What do you think, Vicky? Hello, Robin. I see all my so many friends on Modern Mom. Thank you so much for joining. And I'm curious to see how you feel about this, but I have something else to share with you that was truly remarkable this week as well. Japan's government actually announced that it's encouraging companies in Japan to let their employees choose to work a 4-day work week instead of 5. Now, if you know much about the Japanese and Japanese companies, actually I have some clients that have moved to Japan to work at Japanese companies. They are some of the hardest working constituents on the planet. I mean, they don't work is no joke in Japan. And the government is saying, why not try this 4-day work week? Can you imagine if the US government told us that we companies should consider a 4-day work week? I'd be throwing a neighborhood party. I'd be so happy. Because they said that this is designed to be able to help aid the Japanese to be able to take care of more of their family members, and also to make sure they have more free time to acquire new skills. Greg, I don't know. How do you feel about this?
I love this idea of a 4-day work week. I mean, when I was especially, starting out in the job force and all that stuff, the idea of working 4/10s, because you're already there, say it's based off of the 40-hour idea of it. 4/10s is not bad. It's not bad to go from 8 hours to 10 hours, especially when you get that extra day and you think about what people want to do with that time, and like you said, learning new skills. Maybe you take that day for an education day. Maybe you just need a day off, but having that extra one, I love that, because I feel like that would make people more productive even. I don't know what the productivity studies are on that. I'm sure there are some out there, but I would think that would make people more incentivized to do better work, to work harder, to get through those, do those 4 days and then have that free extra day. I mean, I'm all for that.
I'm all for that too. But I think that's going to take, I talked to several people in different industries and I thought it was really interesting because here in the financial industry, it would make sense for us if the stock market then elected to only open 4 days out of the week, which meant other, markets, including the Asian markets or European markets would ideally also join in the 4 day work week to be able to let financial people take off. But then I also talked to my friends in the healthcare industry and they're like, well, we're 24/7. So, if that were the case, then maybe that would help us in some ways because it would force hospitals to, make it so it's a little bit more conducive for us to have that extra personal day. So I'm excited to read about this. Who knows if it'll happen? I did talk to another media powerhouse and she says, well, what if like the US is like, I'm going to one up that and maybe we'll go to 3 days. I'm like, I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, that's kind of wishful thinking, but I like wishful thinking. We can always at least talk about that. And Vicky is saying it's good mental well-being. Absolutely. I agree with this so much. In fact, I did research. Did you know that 80% of migraines are usually driven by stress? So, there's a lot of things that, we got to think about as we go. We got to come out of this pandemic, I feel better, as a better people. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I mean, and figuring out how to balance that. I mean, there's so many factors that we're all going through right now and how to come out of that. But that definitely, I would be shocked if it ever happened here in the US. I just don't feel like maybe some companies, I can see like maybe Google or some tech companies maybe experimenting with that. But yeah, as a whole, probably not. I also didn't think about that factor either, though, with different industries, because that financial industry, like how are they going to handle that in Japan if they switch to that? Are they going to shut down their trading?
I'd be okay with that for a day, an extra day a week. I'd be fine with that. But I think, and I think we just have to, you're right. That's a really good question. How would they handle that? That would be really interesting to see. And speaking of Google, because you just talked about this, we should talk about this because Google just rolled out a tool today called Work Location Tool. So, we've heard a lot about this, and I think we're going to talk even more in the coming shows about the future of work, right? And how this is going to look like, because, you and I are both coming live from our homes today. And, certainly I think if we had started the show maybe a year ago, we actually could potentially actually be in studio together in New York or somewhere else. But we do know now the reality is that people have gotten accustomed and realizing that there's a lot of value from having that more work flexibility, and it can be still just as productive. And so Google is saying, okay, fine. If that's the case, then this work location tool, employees have access to it starting today. And CEO Pandar Chai today, he announced that, 20% of his company is going to be allowed to work permanently from home. The other 20% that you could work from a Google office that's not your normal office. And then 60% have to go back to their normal office starting in September. But what he did say was really interesting is if you're going to let's say, receive that Silicon Valley or New York paycheck, but then you're moving to somewhere less expensive, we're going to recalculate your income. And so this tool allows the employee to go in there and say, okay, I'm going to move to such and such town. How much is that going to impact my pay? So it's really interesting. I don't know. I thought that was interesting. And I think Tim Cook is saying that employees at Apple have to go back and work Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. And they're receiving so much backlash on this from their employees on their Slack channels. Employees are mad. But what I think was interesting about this is how do you quantify that? Like if employees are still giving you a certain value of work, right, and still value productivity, and that productivity would generate a certain amount of consistency in terms of sales, is it fair to take a zip code pay cut?
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of pitfalls in going down that road of trying to determine where you live determines how much you get to make doing the same job, that somebody else may be doing at one of your peers. I wonder what the employee response to that is. I mean, is it valuable enough to go live, maybe in a rural area or wherever it is that you want to go to that's not, San Francisco or something and take that pay cut? I don't know. Right. For me personally, that would be a tough one.
It'd be tough, right?
Yeah, because granted, you'd be paying that much extra in where living, fees or whatever the cost of living and wherever you're at, but still, That's a bold move, is what that is.
That's a bold move. And like there's a lot of talk right now with different CEOs, especially in the financial industry. Like I think James Gorman with Morgan Stanley is saying, no, you got to get yourself back to work. None of this. If you can go out to a restaurant, you can come back to work. And he's saying like, if you're going to get that New York paycheck, you better be working in New York. But let's put it into perspective for a moment, right? The CEOs of the planet, I know there's a lot of them out there. Many of them have homes in Hawaii, in the Caribbean, and Florida, and different parts outside of New York or Silicon Valley, which is oftentimes where the companies are based. Did they get a paycheck if like they spend a quarter or a third of their year, off on an island somewhere? Because technically they're still being productive and still doing their job. So is it fair?
Right.
That's the question. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, Mark Zuckerberg lives pretty much full time in Kauai, I think, now at his Hawaiian place. So
in Kauai, right?
Yeah. Yeah. In his mansion there. So yeah. Does that count that he's not in the office? Yeah. That's a really great point. I'm going to guess, if I were to guess, it's probably not going to affect his income or some of these other CEOs. So that's certainly a huge, there's just a lot of pitfalls. This is going to be a really interesting experiment to see how it all plays out.
I'm interested in seeing this. I'm seeing comments coming in. I'm seeing one of the comments from Sadiq is saying the real problem, the Japanese working life is more harder than U.S. working life. They are working hard. They are not as relaxed as the United States. That is true. But I want to say that many of us here in the United States, and I think Greg and I are included in that, and we work really, really hard. I wouldn't say that we work a lot less. I think it just depends on the person. There are certainly people who work less here in the States, but there's certainly a lot of us who work probably just as much, if not more. So I think, it all depends on the person. I do see Vicky is saying equal opportunities. Great question tonight. Thank you. And I know Vicky is joining us from the UK. It's great to have you with us. Robin Stevens just says, did you negotiate cost of living when you signed the initial contract? That's a great point, right? In the initial contract, did it include the cost of living? Because, that's really, these are really important comments. And I'm really glad those of you are tuning in. And do me a favor while watching this, do go ahead and share our show with your communities right now, because we want to get the word out. These are important conversations. But one thing I want to move on to, because I think this is important, and I know, Greg, we're going to build on this with you, is, I don't know if you saw this, but this past weekend on American Airlines, if you had a flight, there's a good chance your flight got canceled, because American Airlines actually canceled 190 flights over the weekend due to staffing shortages. This is upon a time where travel is now coming back. In fact, there's a big travel demand surge, almost close to pre-pandemic levels, and yet they can't get enough crews to fly the 190 flights. And this is not just in American Airlines. Other airlines are dealing with this as well. So it's interesting. So now we've got a problem where people just frankly don't want to work. They're also calling this the era of resignation, because record amounts of people want to resign from their job. Do we have a solution, Greg?
Yeah. Oh, let me just solve that one right now. I mean, it is. I think, with the 190 flights or whatever, that's a lot of flights. That's a lot of people who are affected by that.
That's a lot of people who can't get to wherever they're supposed to be.
Yeah, well, and you would think, though, they would have known ahead of time that they have crew shortage. That's a huge amount of crew as well, to affect that many flights. I mean, you figure, I don't even know how many people would be, working on an average flight, but a lot of people. So how do you, I guess, you bring these people back? Did you already permanently lay them off and they moved on to other jobs? Like, I don't know how American Airlines handled during the pandemic, or whether they just furloughed people. But yeah, that's a huge, huge concern, seeing how it works, and the people, and people resigning too. That is kind of an interesting, I guess it ties back into what we were talking about, people getting used to work from home, and then how companies are handling bringing people back on. It's just
it seems like people just don't want to work. I mean, not everybody, of course, but because there's a Microsoft study that came out this month too, that showed over 50% of Generation Z employees want to quit their job. 50% of people between, I think, 18 and 24 years old. This is like that's a big number.
Lot. I mean, are they wanting to quit because they want to go to a different job or do something different, or is they quitting just because they want to be on permanent vacation? I mean, I respect that goal, but you know, it's probably not a realistic one for most people. Yeah, I do think that's kind of an interesting thing. Yeah, of why it is that they're doing that.
I know. And then Nick, for 40% of workers worldwide, okay, and that's like,
Wow.
all ages, and then over 50% of Gen Zers, the younger group, but like 40%, that's talking about like Gen Xers and boomers and everybody else. That's a big percentage. We're almost talking like, 40% is almost half working people are just, one of the main complaints they're saying is they just don't want to go back into the office. They don't want to go back to office. You're going to make us go back to office. We're going to quit. So,
well, I mean, the trend was already starting there too for people wanting to work on location, work from home. I remember, back when I was doing the show on digital trends, like we talked about that a lot, about that trend of, where you could kind of start working wherever you were, especially with better internet everywhere and all of that. So this just completely exacerbated that move. I feel like a lot of companies are going to have to do a real self-examination of, do you really want to force people back in, and who can you get to do that? If the workforce is just at 40%, want to quit. That's a huge number.
Greg, we should be applying for new jobs. I'm not kidding.
Right.
Kidding.
Already adapted to work from home. So
yeah, so true. All right, let's talk about that though. I want to hear what you've got this week, because I've been so excited waiting for your report. Yeah,
so I've got a couple of things I wanted to talk about this week. But the first one is this trend for flying cars. And there's right? It's something that we've discussed before, but it's getting further along now. And there were a couple of big stories that came out. And one of them is from Australia. It's a company called Airspeeder. And what they're trying to do is create a flying car racing league. So they want it to be they want it to be kind of along the lines of, NASCAR or Indy 500, only with flying cars. And this week, you can kind of see what one of them looks like right here. This is, of course, their promo video, hyping it all up. But that's what they look like. Now, the first ones, what happened this week while they were in the news is that they test flew one. But to start off, they're going to be remote pilots. You won't have somebody actually in the vehicle, although it is designed to have somebody in it. So that's coming down the road. But this is where, taking a look at how they're going to be doing this. They're going to have all these different cars. They're going to race in a virtual track. I mean, it's flying through the air. And then you'll have these pit crews that will actually run. They actually have pit crews that run out and change out the batteries about every 15 minutes. And they're going to, later on this year, they said they're going to be setting up some different international races for these that they want to bring around. They haven't announced where they're going to do it yet, but they want to bring these along and really turn it into a huge sport eventually. Maybe even next year, having people fly around in these things.
Okay, Greg, let's just put it out there into the universe. For those of you who are in charge of this, all right, Greg and I will volunteer to be part of I don't think I want to be part of the crew, but I definitely want to be in one of those flying cars.
I want to fly it.
Oh, yeah. It looks like very deserty. I recommend you come to Southern California. We got plenty of land that looks like that. And we could, and then I don't know, Curtis on my team, I think you can come in our flight crew. Look at that, get those cool uniforms, Greg. I'm seeing this. This is feeling really good. Okay, Sadiq is asking, what about the FAA regulations?
Yeah.
Buzzkill.
Yeah, that's a lot to be figured out still on all of that. And that's pretty much with any kind of flying car company, because there's a lot of them that are out there working on this, not necessarily the racing side of it. But they're probably out in the desert, because if you crash, at least there's not much around. But you've got, all those different kinds of things to consider about where these things are going to be able to go. But it is stuff that's being debated right now, how to regulate it. And you see a lot of it with the regulations with drones. That's kind of a testing ground for a lot of what's going to happen with the flying cars, because essentially that thing's a giant drone. It can do a lot more damage, but you've got people in it, so you got a lot more to consider. But
you got people in the drone.
Yeah, right. But they're figuring that stuff out. We're still a few years, I think, before you have your general flying car personal one. But something like this, I could see this happening a lot sooner, because it's a specific league. They sign off. They're going to be doing, their virtual tracks. They're not flying over a general city or a highway. Right. I could see this happening a lot soon. Well, I mean, they think it's going to happen really soon. They said like 3 this year, and then they want to have humans in them by next year. So we could have that, like basically pod racing from Star Wars is what it is.
That is awesome. And I
Yeah.
hope they make the vehicle look like a pod from Star Wars. That'd be super cool. I mean, this is so true because we've seen, like, I've seen Top Fuel Racing, those alcohol funny cars, and those things would never make it on a traditional street, although that'd be kind of cool. But they're always in these sort of like outskirt tracks, right? Where people can race. And so you have those places where you can go. And I'm with you on this. I mean, we could be participants. We don't even have to be there in person. They could be filmed by drones and you could watch remotely. And I could see this being very, very popular. Goodness, Greg, we got to get ourselves tickets to this because I feel like we got to go on location for this. We're going to have to make that sacrifice.
I think we'll just have to do it for everybody. We'll promise you we will do our best to be there on location. They haven't announced where it's going to be yet. So Southern California does seem though like it would be a prime spot to do it. So as soon as they announce these, they said later this year. And sometimes with these announcements, those things could always change a little bit, but they tested it out. Seems to work great according to them. So yeah, later this year we'll have that. Maybe next year you'll have flying car races. So
I love that.
Pretty cool.
Well, the only thing I'm going to say is Airspeeder. I feel like this is maybe just my own comment. I think like that vehicle looks really awesome. I think you need some diversity in your images, and that would be really awesome. And we're here to support.
We need to make whatever pitch you have to do to get there because I want to see you flying one of these things. That would be amazing. I am sure everybody watching would want to watch you fly one of these things too.
Or I'll be your co-pilot. I'm good with that too, Greg.
No, I'm fine with you taking the wheel. I'll be a co-pilot. I'm good with that.
Well, they turned.
Maybe I'm speaking too soon on that. I don't know. Maybe I should wait to say that.
True that.
I'll watch you fly first.
Yeah, from the ground.
So you've got that. So that's Airspeeder. That was one thing trending. Another one, and this is something also that this company is really pushing to make happen sooner than later. It's from a company called Ehang, and it's from they're from China, but they're testing this out all over the place. And it's the idea of an autonomous flying car for transportation, for tourism, for they even said for disaster relief or things like that. But this would be essentially you would hop in this thing, you get a map. And this is the theory of how it would work. There'd be a map or locations that you can fly to. You hit that button and it just takes off and flies you there wherever it is that you want to go. So it's a pretty, and again, a few companies working on these things, but that's the idea they want to do because especially for urban travel, we're just talking about traffic and roads. This would be you go to certain location, maybe the top of a building in a city, maybe they have a little port there on top of something because they can take off vertically. So they can really land about anywhere.
Vertically.
Yeah. So that's the thing. It's electric and it's a vertical takeoff and landing. So these things charge up, they fly you not super long distances, but fly you a certain distance and then land somewhere else. So you could say, New York, that would be ideal. You see all the helicopters that do this, but this would be much more accessible to where you would do it, but with no pilot at all.
No pilot. Well, that's really cool because, their name, which is, we would pronounce it Ehang, right? But actually in Chinese, it would be called Ehang. And
I was wondering, you know what? Right when I said that, I'm like, I bet I'm pronouncing this wrong. Thank you.
It's okay. That's what I'm here for. But Ehang, and that actually makes sense because E would be electric, and Hang actually stands for like transportation, and often a term that they use for like airlines. So
that makes okay. This makes way more sense.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think I've actually said that name out loud. I've just read it. So Ehang. And one of the things, the reason they were in the news this week is they actually tested one out in Japan and got approval from, I guess, their version of the FAA to test one of these out because that's one of their target places they want to go to, which again makes sense, at high density urban environments and have these as to be one of your options. I mean, they're pretty cool looking. Those blades make me a little nervous about getting into it.
I feel like it could cut your grass at the same time.
Yeah, that's a lot of blades swinging at you. So I'm assuming it's not already turned on when you get in. You have to get in and then they fire it up.
True. That would be a little like, oh, there goes your foot.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't want anything to do with that. But yeah, again, a company that's working really hard on making this happen all across the world. They've got targets for all kinds of companies, and actually their website's pretty fantastic. It's a lot of really amazing graphics and imagery showcasing, where they want to take this and how they're planning for it. Because it's not just that transportation. They mentioned tourism too. So you could imagine taking one of those over the Grand Canyon or for some kind of a tourist little trip. So a lot of different options you could have for it.
So they're sort of taking on that market of what we've seen helicopters in, right, Greg? I mean, because that's sort of the size, but instead of having, the top blade, you're having multiple. So maybe
cheaper in theory.
Cheaper, and maybe the distribution of less risky because you got more multiple. I don't know. It's really, really interesting though. And but you know what's when I think of something like that, when I see something like that, I think about how a company such as Amazon or FedEx could utilize a vehicle like that. Just imagine if there were, like, in every neighborhood, if there was somewhere they could safely land, right? How much more efficient these deliveries would be too.
That's definitely something people are studying also, of that and drone deliveries. I mean, there's all kinds of really interesting theories out there about those, about having like drone pods in a neighborhood. Basically, you'd have like a huge light pole that only would have little housing for drones that would take off and fly out from there. So it's a really fascinating industry to see where it's going. And like I said, these are just two companies, they're working in this field. There's a lot of them out there that are really pushing to make this happen.
That looks very Tesla-esque, huh, Greg?
Yeah, it does. See, now is this a company that I should buy some stock in? That's what I need to figure out.
Well, it looks like they're on NASDAQ, so very, very fun. Okay, well, what else we got? Because I feel like these are exciting things. I'm really glad you're keeping us up in the loop on these things, because I wouldn't even have known, but it gets me excited about what future transportation is. Also, it makes me really think carefully about if I'm going to buy that next new car, because maybe I'll wait
to see what happens. With these. I mean, somebody's going to be the first one to have one of these out that you can go pick up. And it'll be me clearly. So Yihong, so I'm sorry I said your name wrong. I will do better about that. Please send me one of these now. I'll be on a plane to China tomorrow. But so you got that, just these flying vehicles that are kind of in the news, and it sounds like there's going to be some more of that coming up in the next few weeks. So if people keep their eye out for it, you'll see some more test flights. The other things I wanted to talk about, these are just a couple of gadgets that one of them was trending, and I found it really interesting. And tech-wise, it is a technical achievement, but it's something that you can buy right now, and it is a straw that cures the hiccups. So this is what we're talking about, this gadget.
I'm getting one of these. I got a pen.
Right? Yeah.
My son has hiccups constantly.
Oh, then this is exactly what you would want. So it's called Hickaway. And it's developed by some doctors at University of Texas. And so it's a lot of actual medical doctors worked on this. And they're trying to figure out how to basically crack the code of the human body to convince your body to stop hiccuping. And the way they figured it out is the reason there's a bend there is it creates this certain amount of pressure. So when you're hiccuping, the body functions that cause that, this will trick them to reset based on that pressure. And they said within 1 to 2 sips of water out of this thing, your hiccups will go away. And and they tested it out with a couple of hundred people, and it was something like 95%, 90th percentile. Anyway, it worked. It worked for them to stop the hiccups. So it's a pretty, especially for people like your son who has them all the time, like this is something that could actually genuinely help some people out.
Yeah. This would be awesome. I'm going to have to get one for the car, get one at home. I don't know how much this is, but I'm going to have to check this out. Good job, Texas. We like to see this. Mm-hmm.
They are, I'll tell you how much, because I ordered one. They're about $15 with shipping, and it's about a month out to get them, but sometime mid-July I should have one. So I'll test it out for everybody to see what.
Yes, I think you need to do that, and then film yourself.
Yes, I'll just have to wait till I get the hiccups. Be like, okay, turn it on now. We gotta go.
for a video, it must be done, Greg.
Gotta be ready all the time.
I wonder if you could actually make yourself hiccup. I guess there's got to be. I don't even want to know how that would happen, but
it's not something I've ever wanted to do, so I don't know.
It's on Amazon.
There probably is. I guarantee there's a YouTube video out there somewhere.
Okay, I'm actually, you know what? I love this because I'm going to be on a show tomorrow, on my friend's show on Amazon. I'm going to talk about this. This is really fun. Thank you. I'll make sure to mention you, Greg, because you were the one who told me about this.
That's awesome. Actually, you can buy it on Amazon. That's where I picked it up from.
There you go. Yeah. Very cool.
So you've got that. And then the one other thing I wanted to bring to light, and this was just one that just looks so strange, but also does actually, it has a point behind it. And it's
Behind the
something
changes.
called the third eye. So that's the name of this product. And it's developed by this Korean designer. And what he did was it's partly to really bring awareness. So whether this becomes an actual product, I don't know, but it's to bring awareness about the issue of walking and texting and how many people actually get hurt by doing that. I will say I am very much a person who walks and texts, and I should not be doing that. So maybe this is something for me, but it's this little robotic eye with a camera that you put onto your forehead. And then as you walk along, if you have your head down, it will alert you that something's and make a noise alerting you that you're going to run into an object. Anything within, I think it was 2 meters. So it looks ridiculous, but that's something that he said. He's like, to call attention to the fact that this is something in genuine concern that we have.
Okay, just so you know, Greg, if you're walking down the street with one of those things, I'm gonna laugh so loud I'm gonna fall on the ground, and I'm gonna take a picture of you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just so silly, but I mean, it does actually work apparently. Like it's a real product, but it doesn't sound like he's gonna. It's the blinking on top of it too that's just really adds into it.
Robin's saying, "Holy cow, no!" No, I know, right? Can you imagine? There's certain technology just maybe let's spin a positive to this. Now the positive could be like, let's say for example, someone is vision impaired. Then I can see how this could be used for that source. If they're vision impaired, maybe having a third eye would be really helpful because it could detect potential things that are in front of you. Okay, so maybe that's better. But I guess for them, the market would be, maybe they wanted a bigger market that all of us would have a third eye. But
yeah, well, I think their market is irresponsible texters and walkers like me who need a reminder that look up every now and then. So it's a good reminder for me on that.
And then you have a rainbow sort of cable going on the top of your head like that. I feel like at least they should make it into like blending to your hair color.
Yeah, jazz it up a little bit. Something.
And maybe the eye should match your eye color. And let's talk about the size of this thing. This looks like a really big zit on like a technology zit on your head. I mean,
yeah,
literally, if someone came into the office with this, I would just be like, no, go.
Yeah, it's I mean, I guess you must really have to have a problem if you would want to wear this. Like if you'd want to overcome all that, everybody making fun of you. This would be, or just don't look down and text while you're walking. That's the other solution to it. Maybe that's part of it. It's like if you get caught walking and texting too much, you have to wear this. It's like a shaming device.
Yeah, that's a good one for school. Sadiq is saying that they actually have something like this in a Turkish startup. Good to know, Sadiq. We
really
know that.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of things that are out there for this. I did look up just some other tech that's out there. There is an app called, I believe it's Text and Walk, like Text and Walk.
This is a real problem for you, Greg. I feel like you've done a lot of research in this area.
Yeah, well, yeah. It genuinely has been a problem for me. I've been, you can ask my friends. I've been told many times I need
you
to pay
walk
more
into
attention.
walls.
I'm not gonna say I've never. You cut out there. I didn't hear that part. I'm not sure what you said.
He's walked into the walls. I know. I'm gonna talk his team. Okay, you know what? This is why Greg will be the co-pilot, and I will be driving that drone.
Oh, I'm not selling myself very well for this piloting gig. Yeah, dang. Well, I will do better because I don't want to have to wear the third eye. So I will change my ways.
There'll be an eye in the back too. There'll be like one in the front, one in the back, one on the side.
I'll learn my lesson. I'll learn my lesson for sure.
I love it, Greg. Always such good information. That's not going to make my shopping list, though.
I was guessing not, but it's something that's out there that people can take a look at.
Straw is for sure, though. That's a winner for sure.
That one's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to get that. Cool. Just to try it out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so there's a couple of gadgets that I just wanted to bring attention to for gadgets of the week, I guess, to showcase there.
Well, you always winners. What else we got, Greg? I know we got more. You have more for us?
No, well, I mean, the only other thing that I wanted to just kind of mention also was back to that text and walk is that since there's actually statistics about this, that it's a real concern. So this one is one where it's an app that you can that puts up your camera. So it turns on your camera. And so when you're texting, you're still getting a camera view of things. So just even for safety, even for somebody who's doesn't have it as a problem, you can still be aware of your surroundings a little bit more.
Because you'd be like this, right? And so you could be like, and then you could be like,
yeah.
And then
yeah, and if you're a crowded subway or something, whenever that happens again, you can at least be aware of there's people or whatever's happening around you.
Then you don't have to wear it because it could just be on your phone. I think that's actually smarter, like using software, right? Because nobody would really notice it.
Yeah, definitely less of a spectacle.
A little cooler version of the third eye that we all agree doesn't deserve a spot on your head.
Yeah.
That's something I think was kind of a flop, but I'm sure there's another use for that. I'm sure you can figure out another use for that. Maybe you can go after the GoPro market or something. I don't know. But, one thing we should talk about is what we plan to do next week, Greg.
Yes, indeed. Let me fix my camera there. I will be back on here in just a second.
Turn on
I'm a voice right now. But yes, coming up next week, we will be actually talking about what to stream. Let's see here. Am I coming back on? This is totally me. I just bumped my camera. So this is just another bad endorsement for me flying that car. Uh-oh.
You talk and I'll be you. Hold on. Let's try.
Okay. Oh, okay. We're doing this. So next week, we're going to be talking about streaming television and some of the different things that you can watch, especially with all the services out there. This July, there are a lot of really great shows that are going to be coming out, and we want to talk to you about those. But we also want to hear about what you like to watch. So if you can send us in your recommendations, we'll make sure to talk about those next week as well. Back to you, Winnie.
Thank you, Greg. That was super helpful. I'm excited. Yeah, we would love to hear exactly what Greg said. We want to hear from you. Let us know what are the things that we should be paying attention to. And most important, what are things that have, jumped on your radar? Because this is about keeping all of us in the loop and providing more value for each of us. And this is really, really interesting time. But with that, Greg and I thank you so much for tuning in. We so appreciate your support. And most importantly, know that we want to continue to have conversations like this with you on and offline. And don't forget, our direct messages are open on Twitter. We would love to hear from you. If there's anything that Greg and I can share, let us know. The other thing is we plan to do more interactive segments. So we want to see if there's a CEO out there, if there's some new tech, another company doing something really interesting and special, make sure to have them reach out to us. You can reach out to us on Twitter, either to Greg Nibler or myself, and we would be happy to connect. And who knows, we might have a really fun guest for you very, very soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're back, Greg.
I'm back again. But yeah, I think that's a great idea. If somebody's got like a startup company or some cool product or anything at all, yeah, get a hold of us anytime. Always happy to talk. Can always give recommendations as well. If you have tech questions about anything, I can definitely figure out the answer or point you in the right direction. But yeah, we just want to have fun. And like when he said, be interactive. You're a part of the show as much as we are. So we just really, really enjoy that aspect of it.
Yeah, so thank you. Thank you so much for your time, and be well, be safe. And Greg and I can't wait to see you again next week.
Absolutely. Bye.